Ал құрметті әріптестер, бастайық. Қайырлы кеш.
Good evening, distinguished colleagues. Today we are having the 6th webinar, and the topic is interaction with teenagers through media literacy training. As usual, I would like to say that this webinar is being implemented within the framework on the Media Literacy for Librarians project. The project is implemented with a grant from the American Corners program of the U.S. Department of State Bureau of Cultural and Educational Programs. Our partner is the American Library Association, whose members are our webinar speakers. Each webinar is attended by the Director of International Affairs for the American Library Association, Mr.Michael Dowling. He's with us today. Thank you, Michael. And now, distinguished colleagues, let me introduce the speaker of this webinar. Kelly Czarnecki is a teen library manager at the state of North Carolina, USA, ImaginOn branch. It is dedicated to serving youth. She also served as the president of the Young Adult Library Services Association in 2021-2022. She has also developed, implemented, and managed new library programs, some of which have earned national recognition from the Young Adult Library Services Association. Kelly Czarnecki has also contributed extensively to the literature on teenagers and libraries, particularly with technology as a focus. Kelly has recently published a book with the American Library Association titled Power Lines, Connecting with Teens in Urban Communities Through Media Literacy. In English, of course. She has also worked for more than 20 years with people experiencing homelessness who are sheltered. Here, you got to know the speaker of today's webinar, Kelly. I would like to thank you for taking the time to participate in our project and speak on the webinar. Participants are the specialists of national libraries and public libraries of all regions of our republic, as well as specialists of libraries of schools, colleges, and higher educational institutions. Today, there is a conference of college librarians. That is why some of our librarians were not able to join us. But I hope that they will listen to you later.
Библиотекари колледжей находятся на республиканской конференции, поэтому многие из них не смогли подключиться.
Today, some college librarians are participating in a national conference, so they will watch
Distinguished
the YouTube
colleagues,
version of the webinar.
the webinar is translated into Kazakh and Russian languages. Professional translators Asim Baydildinova and Anna Kabardina are working with us. I hope you have all selected the translation language you need. Please check. To select the translation language, click on the globe symbol at the bottom of the computer screen and select the translation language you need. If you are using a mobile phone, click on the dots with the inscription "Additionally" in the lower right corner of the display, then click on Translation or Interpretation in the window that opens, and then select Kazakh or Russian language. Then press Done button. If you have any questions, you can contact my coordinators of the webinar, Жанна Серикжановна Сакпанова and Maya Turbekovna Suleimenova. The telephone numbers are in the chat. If you have any questions to the speaker, write to the chat box. The speaker will answer these questions after finishing her presentation. We will save the recording of the webinar and publish it on our YouTube channel. The links will be sent to all the participants. And now, with great respect, I would like to give the floor to our speaker, Kelly Czarnecki. Kelly, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Vivigal. Thank you to the American Library Association. Thank you to American Corners. I am so glad to be here. And good evening, everyone. If you are watching this recording in the future, it could be good morning, it could be good afternoon. So glad we are here, and I hope everyone is safe. I heard some folks might have some bad weather. So additionally, thank you for being here. And I want to thank the translators as well. I think oftentimes you all are the unsung heroes, but we certainly could not do this without you. So thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll jump into my presentation. All right, so here we are. So as my introduction said, I am the manager of what is called the Teen Loft. I am at a branch that is called ImaginOn. So that is a made-up word. It's not a real word in English. It's kind of a play on words with the word imagination. But we are a branch dedicated completely to youth. So we serve ages 0 through 18. So we don't serve adults in the same way, like they can't come and use the computers. They can't do programs at our branch. So we are strictly youth focused, which is really exciting. And I jumped ahead a little bit to my agenda here. So I just wanted to let you know what we'll be covering today. So who am I? We'll be defining media literacy. What is media literacy, to make sure that we're all on the same page of what we're talking about here. And then how are we going to look at developing programs and services around media literacy? And what can engagement look like? So we're talking about engaging teens. What does engagement look like? And I just wanted to mention there's many, or I shouldn't say many, there's several definitions of engagement. The definition we're going to talk about today is participation of teens, interests of teens. So I don't want anyone confused that we're talking about other definitions of engagement, or he might wonder what I'm doing at my library. So it's how do we interest teens? How do we get them to participate? And then just understanding what our role is with media literacy. And within that, I want to talk about program outcomes. You know, how do we say we're doing what we're doing? Because I have a sense that you all are doing great work with teens, and this presentation is a supplement to what you are already doing. And then, of course, we'll have time for question and answer. As they mentioned, please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and then we can definitely get to them at the end. All right, so here is an outside photo of my branch. It does take up a full block of the city, so it is large. We also are a partner with a children's theater, so we have 2 theaters inside the building. So that accounts for some of the size. And then we are within a system of 19 other branches, which is probably in the United States considered a medium-sized library system. There are others that have, you know, near 100, if not over 100. So this is probably pretty small to medium. And then we are considered an urban branch. Our population a few years ago was about 874,000. And I just put where North Carolina is on the map. So if anyone ever happens to visit and you're kind of near that area, I would love to love to meet you. You're more than welcome to come to the library, and I'd be more than happy to show you around. And just for reference, the teen area is on the second floor. You can't really see it too well. It's kind of where the green building is. And we have about 5,000 square feet dedicated to the teen space. So that gives you kind of an idea of where I'm coming from. And I also want to mention too that I do have experience working in an academic library. So when I went to grad school for my library degree, I did do a work study program. So I got experience, of course, working with students in the undergraduate library. And I've certainly done outreach with school libraries. So while I am at a public library, I have worked and continue to work with librarians, library media specialists at school libraries. So I do have those connections. I know that many of us, as Bogle mentioned, are from many different libraries throughout the country. So I have a quick video here. I would like to show you a little bit more about ImaginOn. So I think we're going to jump to YouTube. There might be a few second ad that's showing, but we'll skip those ads and you can see a little bit more inside the building. So let's hope this works here.
Hello, Kelly. I'm afraid we cannot hear anything or see anything. We can see the slide only.
Oh, okay. You said you can't see or hear anything. Ooh, wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Let's see. Okay, I guess we'll just skip the videos then. I'm not sure what else I can do. It's playing on my screen and I'm sharing my screen. So you're only seeing like a still photo right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Unless anybody else has any other ideas of how to troubleshoot.
Yeah, I think we'll have to skip it. Maybe we can share it later.
Okay. Okay. No problem. All right, give me 1 second. I'll get back to the presentation. All right, so are we back? Can we see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, so I do have quite a few videos in the presentation, so this might be a little shorter than that was planned, but we'll go with it, right? So I'm sorry about the videos, but definitely on the recording, you know, hopefully we'll get those links, and I really suggest that you watch those videos if you do have a chance. So I apologize, but we will continue onward. So I just included our mission here for my library system. So it's to improve lives and build a stronger community. And then my branch itself has a mission of bringing stories to life. And I just wanted to mention that because I think that really ties in a lot with the media literacy programs that we do. So that will keep coming up again. All right, so again, welcome all. As I mentioned, I'm aware that we come from many different libraries that we are gathered here today. And I just want to throw out some common definitions in case, you know, maybe, you know, so that we're coming from the same place of you know, when I say academic, when I say school, like we're all on the same page. So I got these definitions from the American Library Association. So academic libraries, we consider, you know, those that serve colleges and universities, and of course the students and the faculty and staff within. School libraries, of course, are usually part of a school system. They're also called media centers. In the United States, they serve grades K through 12 or approximately ages 5 through 18. Rural libraries, according to the American Library Association, they are considered a population of 25,000 or less. And then they are equal to or more than 5 miles from an urbanized area. And then, of course, we have folks from special and national libraries, which can serve specific populations or collections. And sometimes in the States, we also have libraries in jails or museums, and librarians can work there as well with teens or adults. So just some common definitions I wanted to put out there. And now we're gonna, oh, excuse me, I forgot the public library, of course, where I'm at. So the public libraries serve the general public, all sizes of communities, and they're usually funded by tax dollars. So now I wanted to throw out there, if you all have emojis on your PowerPoint screen or your phone, I wanted to see who we have in the audience. So let's try to do this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but let's give it a try. So I'm asking who is in the audience. And if you are a school librarian, select the heart emoji. If you are a rural librarian, select the thumbs up emoji. If you are a national, work at a national library, we have the like congratulations emoji. Public is the surprise face emoji, and university is the hand clap. So I'm not sure if we're able to do that in the chat, but if we are, please feel free. I see a lot of raised hands. So that might mean we don't have emoji access. I'm not sure. Ah, we do. I do. I see thumbs up. All right. Awesome. All right. I see some hand claps. Great. So we got a lot of rural librarians. Awesome. Great. All right. I don't see any hearts. Any school libraries? Oops. All right. I'm skipping ahead here. All right.
I see a few hearts, Kelly.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great. Yes, and I know it was also mentioned that some of you are at another conference today, I think. So again, I'm grateful for those that were able to make it today. I know we have a lot of competing responsibilities. So, and I just wanted to give each other a sense too of where everyone else is coming from. So thank you. All right. So I dedicated a single slide to relationship building with teens because this is so important. I could be doing a presentation on any kind of programming with teens. You know, today it happens to be media literacy. But if you don't get anything from my presentation, I want you to get relationship building with teens. Because in order to engage teens, we have to be able to have some kind of relationship with them. You know, maybe we smile at them when they walk through the door. Maybe we know their name, we learn their name, we ask their name. So just keep this in the back of your mind. You know I work at a large library. We have a lot of, you know, what we call bells and whistles, but we don't need all of that to just build a relationship with teens. Any one of us can do that. And I'm sure, like I said, you already are doing it, but I hope this presentation can encourage you too to think about what more can you do? You know, is there a teen that you've wanted to get to know and you just haven't had the chance to? So we can just think about different ways and challenge ourselves to build those relationships with teens. So here we're going to talk about what media literacy is. And this is a really powerful quote by my co-author. They had mentioned in the introduction that I had recently published a book with the American Library Association. And I know you can read this quote. I'll go ahead and read it. So it's translated, media can be used to oppress or liberate. It is up to us to teach the next generation this powerful tool for the good of humanity. So what is media literacy? And my definition I got is from the National Association for Media Literacy Education. So it's also referred to as NAMELY. And media literacy is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. And I think that's important to differentiate and distinguish from information literacy. I feel like a lot of us probably practice information literacy, where we're showing folks where to do research, how to find information, but opportunities to have them create the information, to analyze the information, that's where media literacy really comes in. And we also might hear a lot where media literacy is in relationship to fact checking, what real information is online. And it certainly is part of that, but it's also much broader than this. And it also supports understanding purpose, agenda, and construction, like storytelling, bias, credibility. In other words, it's a pretty broad skill set to have. And when we think about media, particularly digital media, what often comes to mind might be social media and screen time, which is true, but it's also about their access. We're probably pretty aware that some teens have greater access to computers and phones than others. Some might not have it at all. And what are their interests in relationship to media itself? So when we see online spaces from an asset-based perspective, it can help change the lens in which we view how to connect youth with media. So allowing them to create media content, allowing them to tell their own stories, allowing teens to share their experiences, allowing them to make sense of what they see. That's what we can do. That is part of what our role is as a librarian and working with media literacy. So one of my suggestions, and this came from the American Library Association, is how can we find ways to introduce media literacy concepts to already existing interactions? So my guess is that most of us have an information desk or a reference desk where we're interacting with folks already, right? So that's an already existing interaction that we do. And we already probably have programs. So how can we implement?
Kelly? Your slides, we are still seeing the quote slide. Is that okay? Are you changing slides?
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, so we're still on the quote slide. I'm almost done. I'm explaining media literacy. So yes, thank you. So we're finding ways that media literacy concepts can be with already existing interactions. So like I mentioned, the reference desk and existing programs are two things that all of us probably do to some degree. All right, so we are on the next slide here, and I've got 5 suggestions of how we can, and I'm calling it ignite connections with media literacy at the library. All right, so first of all, what can we do with the library space itself? So do we have opportunity to, put up displays, add signage with media literacy questions, resources? And what about our furniture? I mean, sometimes we do get updated furniture. We do get new branches that open. I know that doesn't happen as frequent as putting up a display, but I do think it's worth mentioning. And I do have a few examples in my presentation of how we implemented media literacy with our furniture. So that's in the next couple of slides. So of course, I mentioned the reference interview. So we're going to talk about incorporating conversation starters, which are just small ways to engage teens. So I think sometimes when we think of media literacy, we might think of, what are those big programs that we can do and why aren't teens coming? So let's talk about the smaller ways that we can engage teens. Again, building those relationships so that hopefully they will want to come to those larger programs. Like it's not that much of a leap. It's like, oh, I know you, I know what your interests are. I think you're going to be interested in this program. Chances will increase that they might be able to come. And then, of course, I talked about in the previous slide, a definition of media literacy as in content creation. So what can we involve youth in that they can create, that they have something to say? What do those things look like? And then, of course, staff training, I think, is really important. So we're talking a lot about technology, and technology is, print is also considered technology. But technology, of course, is considered software, social media sites that maybe not all of us are overly familiar with. I mean, I just first started using Instagram a couple years ago, so I'm really showing my age when many people have probably been on there for 10, 15, 20 years. So we can always learn, more and learn what the teens are engaging with. So I think staff training is really important. And then using local data. So I've pulled data that, we have used at my library. And then, of course, I found some reports that the Kazakh library is using as well, and how we can integrate that into programs in our library for teens. So these are some of the areas that we're going to be looking at. So this is inside the Teen Loft. We are looking at furniture, and we are looking at how we incorporated media literacy into our furniture. So we got a lot going on here. So these are booths where the teens can sit at. You can see names on the booths, and you can also see pictures on the booths. You can see some close-ups of the walls where we have quotes on the walls. And I want to talk a little bit about our process for this. And then I also give some examples of how we can do this without having a lot of resources. So I'm not saying, you need to have something on your walls and your furniture, but I did want to include this option, and we'll talk about different ways to do it. So the process for coming up with these quotes, we have quotes from books and we have quotes from musicians. And we got the teen input on, which musicians are we featuring, which authors are we featuring on the walls, because this is pretty permanent. And so, of course, we wanted their opinion. And we started out with some examples. So we gave them kind of a finite list to choose from. It wasn't just choose from any author and this could be like an endless selection. So we had them vote, and the way they voted, they put like stickers by their top choice quote that we had written on a large piece of butcher paper on the wall. And we kept that up for like 2 weeks. We had a voting system. They voted for their favorite quote, and the ones that got the top votes was what ended up on the wall. So we were really excited with that process to invite them into it. Now we actually did the vinyl itself. So these words are made from vinyl, sticky material. Like we did that ourselves because we wanted it to, go without any kind of error. So we did that ourselves. Some of the drawings, so I wanted to include a close-up of this drawing. This drawing was actually submitted by a teen outside the library. We had reached out to the jail libraries, and the teens drew their picture on a piece of paper. And we were able to partner with a company that was then able to put the picture on our furniture. So I just wanted to highlight this as a way that we were able to reach out to teens that can't come into the public library, but we still wanted to give them a voice. And again, you know, they're including what is important to them. This happens to be a well-known basketball player, and they wanted this showcased on the furniture. So it's pretty permanent, you know, in the teen space. This is, so you guys saw the close-up of the fishes on the furniture, and it might be like, oh, that's cool, but what does that have to do with the library? Well, the teen that drew these fishes, the one on the right, of course, is the drawing, and they took their inspiration from an actual existing fountain in the city. And the fish itself had to do with different things that we do at the library. So this looks like kind of a musical fish, I guess you could say. You know, you got the music notes, the instruments, and that is something that we do at the library. We have a space where they can record music and play instruments. And so he wanted to tie in the, you know, that part with the library. So it's not just like a random fish and random, you know, additions to the fish. Like it has purpose. So I just kind of wanted to show you the background of that. And we had invited him in particular because he's a longtime volunteer of the library, and we knew that he had you know, strong drawing skills to contribute. So here's a slide that I included. We had actually made the vinyl. We have a vinyl cutter on the top left there. You can see it's called the Roland vinyl cutter. So we designed, you know, the lettering on that vinyl cutter. It's just something that we have in the library. Another piece of equipment, I've heard different pronunciations. It's called the Cricut or Cricut maker. And that's just a smaller version of the vinyl cutter that, again, you can, you know, easily make printouts of lettering there, you know, using that machine. And we have also used, I am sure you have too, or have seen, just like a Post-it note board. So, you know, you could have prompts at the top where you're inviting people to, you know, what is your favorite quote in a song? What is your favorite quote that you read in a book? And they're just participating, you know, via available Post-it notes or stickies. And maybe you just keep it up for a week or two, but then folks can collaborate. And, you know, it's kind of like a graffiti wall, I guess, quote unquote, that, you know, people can see what others are saying and inspire others to maybe read or listen to what they have as well. So I just wanted to give some different options on, you know, how furniture and display space can be utilized depending on what kind of library, you know, we have and what kind of resources we have. Okay, so so I have to show the before picture, right? Everything isn't as beautiful as the slides I'm showing. So this is the before picture of one of our tables. You can see the plastic peeling. And actually this table is in the space now. We've put it in to get removed. I think we just missed it. Like when we were closed for the pandemic, we overlooked it. I mean, we've been open for a while. So anyway, so I wanted to show you a quick before picture. And here is an after picture. So these tables had that peeling plastic on it as well. And to like get new tables or get refurbished tables, like, was monetarily out of the question. It was too expensive. So we had the kids paint the tables. And this was during the pandemic, actually, that we did have the kids paint the tables. The tables are still there, or still here. And you can see on the right side, this was actually done by a professional graffiti artist. So she led the kids into, you know, how do you add graffiti and spray paint to the tables. We did this outside. This was a time, again, when I mentioned we were closed. Certain services were closed during the pandemic, but we could still do outside programs. You know, we were in the fresh air. which you kind of need when you're doing spray paint programs. So, and how this ties into media literacy. So again, you can see some of the wording on the tables. So Black Lives Matter was a phrase, and the people's names on the table were something very important to the teens. And again, like I said, these names, quotes, paints are all there, today, still on our tables. So we use them obviously for the computer tables, and the kids had a really good time doing that. So here's some displays I just did. Like I took a picture of a large display sign we have. I want to say it's like 21 by 28 inches. We can of course change the paper, and then I did kind of a close-up of the display. And here's where I'm talking about like conversation starters. So the display of course highlights that it's for teens. This was done by my coworker. We can see the QR code, of course, that they can, show on their phone, and it'll automatically go to that library resource. So some conversation starters, and this could even be part of the display, where do you get your news? Like, did you know the library, has resources where you can get your news? You don't just have to go to YouTube or your friend or Yahoo, but of course, we all know we have actual resources for credible news. And that's just one example of how you can display that. Now, all of these examples don't have to do with news, but I'm just using that tie-in for media literacy if you wanted to. And then of course, the close-up just gives a few sentences of what specifically Canopy is about, or tutor.com is about. So it's just a nice way to highlight something, specific for teens. All right, so this was another slide that I was going to show a video. I'll just talk through it because I don't think that's going to work, which I'm sorry, because it's a really good video. So I'd really encourage you to watch it, but I'm going to talk through it. So why I included this slide here, so we're talking about displays, right? We're talking about furniture, we're talking about our space. So this website screen capture that we're looking at has to do with an online display. So we're not just talking about displays in our physical library spaces, but a display that was created online. So you can see here, it says an online youth exhibition. And the library was a partner in this. And what we did was helped the youth research pictures, photos from when the Black youth went to school during 1920 to 1945, 1950, so on to 2020. And the reason why this population was looked at was they wanted to look at 100 years of the education of Blacks in Charlotte. So Charlotte, I mentioned, is the city that my library is in. And our local newspaper had recently published an article that talked about the graduation rates of Black students and how they were on a decline. And high schools with high poverty were hit the hardest. And school discipline rates were also found to be disproportionately enforced on Black students. So it was the belief that, by doing this project, by creating this online exhibition, and using visuals, using other media, that we would be able to connect the past with the present and offer maybe potential remedies to some of the problems, that the newspaper pointed out. And so we had 4 different high schools work together, like the history classes were some from some of the schools. They worked together and they highlighted historical events that took place in Charlotte. And they came up with poetry, with art, interviews of former students. So they're using all of this media to pull together into an online exhibition and then created a timeline. Since we can't watch the video, I'm going to try and let's go to the website and just do a quick rundown of what we're looking at here. So give me 1 second and we'll see if this works. We're not going to play any video because that's not going to work. All right. So, but it's really, I think it's really worth viewing. So, you know, as you can see, these are all, are you able to view this website here?
Kelly, I think the problem is you're only demonstrating your PowerPoint, not your whole screen. I think when you chose to demonstrate the screen, you chose to demonstrate only one application from your screen, not everything that happens on your screen on your computer. So,
okay, let me see. Okay, let's see. Thank you. Does that work now?
yes. Yes.
Okay, we might have found the problem. Thank you. Okay, and I'll go back and try and play the video, but I'm also watching my time here, so maybe we'll just keep going through because you got the idea. So you know what the teens did, of course, like I said, they pulled together these pictures. They created poetry. You know, you can watch the interviews they did. And, you know, again, why this ties to libraries is because we have this information, probably. We have photos from, you know, the past. We are able to teach teens, how do you do an interview with somebody? How do you record it? And they were able to put this online. So I think this is a really powerful example of what a, you know, display online can look like. And I would definitely encourage you to explore a little more. I left the URL on the presentation, so you can go back and I'd encourage you to view it. So let me hop back to my presentation here. All right, are we able to, let's see, let me share it. All right, and I will forward down. See concurrent slide. Okay, we're good. You can see it. All right. Okay. All right. Moving on. All right. So I wanted to take a picture of, so this is our reference desk, information desk. Call it what you will. It looks a little humble. It looks a little tiny, but that's our reference desk. And the reason why I kind of wanted to highlight this is what is around the reference desk. So my point is, you know, if teens are not coming to the desk, if they're just coming to the desk for information, you know, perhaps you could think about, again, integrating the media literacy so that you're creating prompts for them to interact with you in different ways. So we have a picture, we often have like trivia questions, you know, we have puzzles, you can see by the middle photo here. So, you know, who is this famous person? They have to guess and then they get to spin the wheel, you know, and they love that. I mean, it sounds corny, but they love that. You can do it in an academic library, you know, with older kids. You can do it, or teens, young adults, you know, you can do it with younger ones. And that forces us to engage with them on a different level. You know, we're not just disciplining them. We're not just talking about, you know, reference books, like we're getting to know their interests. And of course, the prize wheel on the bottom right, you know, you can wipe off, you know, right on, you can change it. If you run out of candy, you know, change the prize to something else. But I just wanted to mention, you know, some different ways that you can encourage interaction at the desk and just have some fun with it. All right, so another program that we're in the middle of doing, and this has to do with the pandemic, is we wanted to invite teens to tell their story. You know, what was it like when schools had to close during the pandemic? You know, that was our experience here. So we're asking folks, you know, submit your art, your photos, your poems, just submit your personal experience. So I don't have any examples here yet. We're still in the process of creating them, but I did want to show you the flyers. I did want to show you the connection of earning community service hours. So that's something that we do here. Folks can earn community service, which is part of their schooling, for participating in this. And they can also earn gift cards, things like that. So there is money behind this, and that we hired people, that positions in the library that are actually cultivating this information. So you could do it on a different level too, where, it's just something, maybe a volunteer is collecting this information. But it's a great way, again, to get teens involved in digital media, or media literacy, and share their story. And the pandemic has passed for the most part. I would say some of the closures and things like that have passed here. So maybe it's something else that you're prompting them for, but I just wanted to give this example. And then, of course, different other content creation. I just took some photos of what's going on in our space. So we have a camera, we have a digital, or I think it's called a Polaroid camera, like it's an old school camera. And so the top left, we have what we call a photo dump, and teens can take photos of themselves and then display it, kind of like a selfie board, not super high tech. And then in the middle, we have 3D printed objects. I know you guys have a webinar coming up in the future on makerspaces. Well, they'll probably talk more about that. But that is one of the things that we have in our space, are 3D printed objects. And again, this has to do with what is important to the teens, and what they want to create. And then the last picture on the upper right, if you all are familiar with the Batman movie series, we have the Joker. He came, dressed in the wig and the costume. So again, he's creating content. His friends are filming the content, and he is making a movie in our blue screen studio with it. So again, you can do this on a smaller scale. If you don't have a room completely dedicated to filming, it could be done on a phone. You could have some props. You can see our clothes there, just something a little more portable and manageable if you don't have a dedicated space for it. All right, so again, this is another video. I think we'll pass through it in the interest of time. I highly, highly recommend, though, Trust Me is a documentary, and it is specifically geared toward teens and based on the how information cannot always be trusted. So that is the full video. So if you want to do a movie watching program for teens on media literacy, there is a small fee you can see in the corner here. It is $6.50 to rent it, to have the rights to play it. There is a trailer you can watch. That's what I was going to show. You can watch a few minute trailer, see what it's about, see if your teens or young adults would be interested. And I highly recommend you watching it. And it's just, like I said, it's about bias, misinformation, undermining trust in society. And what I think really would interest teens in this is that they don't want to be manipulated, right? Nobody wants to be manipulated, but probably especially teens. And they learn through this movie how they are being manipulated. So it's a really good movie that they make kind of a hard topic to talk about, really interesting for teens. Okay, and then you all remember probably from my point, staff training was one of them. So I highly suggest, if you can make time, include, what technology has your staff or you been wanting to learn? Is there Is there a teen that maybe comes into your library that is really an expert at 3D printing, at filmmaking? Maybe they could teach the staff a few things. I can't tell you how much we rely on our teens to help us, you know, because they are very good at it. Even databases and other library products. Some of us probably know our databases better than others. I think it's always good, of course, as we get new ones and just need a refresh. You know, what can we learn more about a database that we don't already know? What is a different way we can look at it to maybe, you know, interest teens in media literacy to it? And lastly, I have the reference interview. So I talked about, you know, what to do at the reference desk. Are there different activities maybe coming up on the calendar for the month, for the week that you can look at? How can we integrate media literacy? You know, maybe just each week pause and think of some prompts that you might want to introduce, you know, for the upcoming week ahead, and what would that look like? So that's just an area of your library that you can concentrate on and, you know, give a little refresh in integrating media literacy. And I forgot, my last one, I did say my last one, but this is my last one, is program planning. So we're going to talk a little bit about lesson plans and our own analysis of whose stories are being marginalized. So I'm going to talk about that in the next few slides. I see we're about a minute till the hour. Are we still good to go? I know we started late. I just want to be cognizant of our time here. Still good? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. I have another quick audience participation poll. I'm just curious, what superpower do you want to have more in working with teens? So if you want to have a sense of humor, choose the laughing or crying emoji. If you want to have a supreme knowledge about library resources, choose the heart emoji. If you want to be better with technology, the thumbs up. And then if you want to have more engaging programs, the clapping hands. So we'll just take a quick half a minute. If you all are still with me, whoops, I went to the next slide. If you all are still with me, you can put those in the chat. I don't see any hands. Okay, awesome. All right, I see one. Just checking, nobody fell asleep here yet, right? We're all still awake. All right. I personally want all those things. I want more humor, want more, you know, technology knowledge. So awesome. Thank you for participating, and you can continue. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. All right. So I want to jump to this slide, and I'll give you a little bit of background of why I chose this. You're probably more familiar with it than I. But what I did was I pulled a report about what is important to Kazakh youth. And I wanted to talk about how we can use that, you know, as a report to integrate resource or information into our programming based on this report. So to give you a little background, if you're not familiar, so in the spring of 2020, an organization with the acronym of FES, I do have the URL on here, so if you do want more information, please go there. It carried out an international youth research project to describe and analyze the attitudes of young people and patterns of behavior. And you can see, I'm not going to go through all these charts, but like 41% of youth were satisfied with their education, 24% were not. Some said, you know, underemployment, it was easy to find a job. Others said it was difficult. Migration and mobility, fears and concerns, you know, these were all issues that were looked at for these youth in Kazakhstan. And the reason why I wanted to bring up reports and data is because I also saw on the East Kazakhstan Regional Library website where there was a 2050 strategy, a Kazakhstan 2050 strategy, right? So I feel like our administration is always looking at community reports, is looking at, you know, how can we match the need with what we're doing in our libraries. So I wanted to talk about, you know, what can we do with the data? Because sometimes we're told to do certain things that might not completely resonate with teens. So how do we make, you know, how do we make that connection with the data and with the teens? So of course, this might sound like common sense, but talking with the teens. And the reason I put that there is because a lot of times when we develop programs, and I'm speaking for myself here, we do what we think is great, right? But we might not talk to the teens and what they think is great. The administration might not talk to the teens, right? That's our job. So we want to first and foremost include the teens in some kind of aspect here, okay? I'm going to go on to the next slide. And again, like I mentioned this briefly at the beginning, you know, talking with teens means, do we know their name? Can we create opportunities for them to hang out more at the library? You know, if our interaction is just based on finding books for them and not interacting in other ways, then getting to know them might be a little limited. You know, so if we're able to create those prompts, those fun, engaging ways to get to know them, then I really encourage that. And, you know, getting to know their name too sounds really simple, but sometimes I forget to ask, you know, so just pause and get to know who they are. So this is a slide that I take again, you know, the data from the report that I mentioned, which focuses on education, employment, migration, fears and concerns. And I match those with already existing programs that we have. Now, we don't have time to like go in depth into all these programs, but I'll just kind of briefly mention what I'm talking about. So, you know, if some youth find education important and some youth don't, for example, we have a mentor program. And this is veering a little bit away from media literacy, but stay with me here, okay? Because I'm just highlighting this as an example. So the mentor program has to do with inviting experts, you know, from the community to talk with the teens about their job. So if we want to focus on media literacy, you know, we could certainly invite a graphic designer, we could invite a cinematographer, you know, but it's basically giving them that network connection, you know, and matching the data with the program. I'm gonna, let's see, jump down to employment, where I have mock interviewing as an example. So we often give teens opportunities to do a practice interview for their job, you know, and anymore, it's probably involving something online. It could be involving creating a video. So we're actually sitting down with them and giving them questions and answers just like they would through a real, you know, quote unquote interview, and helping them create their portfolio, whether that looks like photos, videos, you know, things like that. So we can come back to this slide, like if we have more questions, because I know I've got a lot here. But again, the purpose, I just wanted to join the data with some program ideas. And so what I have here, I mentioned, you know, the Kazakhstan 2050 strategy. And I kind of matched that with what we do at my library. We have what's called a program plan. So if that sounds daunting, it took us many years to build. I would suggest starting small if this makes sense. So when I was looking at the 2050 strategy, I saw recommendations, right? And it's like, well, how do we get those recommendations to translate into actual programs? And then how do we get those programs that interest teens, right? It's kind of a tall order. So the program plan that we use, we do have priorities. We do have, you know, areas that we have to stick to for our programs. And then you're just seeing a screenshot of the first page. But what it is actually, I would say, several page document that has specific programs listed out. It's like a catalog, like you can go shopping and say, hey, this sounds great for my teen. I'm going to do 5 of these in the next fiscal year. So that's just one option of how you might want to set up your programming. You could do it by month. We actually do it by year because our funding is tied to it. But like I said, if you want to start out more manageable, that might be a way to do it. And we also go in deeper. So the programs aren't just like a title and description, you know, like the mentor program would also have a lesson plan. So again, I mentioned we, you know, work at a public library. This might sound very like academic or school oriented, but it helps give us, you know, what supplies do I need? How much time do I, you know, need to plan for? What is the objective? And whoever develops this program, you know, say, I want to develop the mentor program. What am I talking about? You know, what is my objective? So then I would fill out this form, give it to, you know, upload it online, and then everybody in my system has access to duplicate it. So again, just another suggestion of how, if you've had a successful program, a successful, you know, service that you're offering for teens, this is a way to share it with your colleagues and the rest of your library system. And then I talk about what is engagement. I kind of just threw a bunch of words. One thing that I wanted to point out, a lot of times administration might ask us, well, how many people attended the program, right? I've got the word numbers up here. That can mean engagement, but it can also mean what are teens learning, you know, during the interaction, during the program? What skill are they acquiring? What are they discussing? That can look like engagement. And I think sometimes when we reframe engagement, that it's not just about the numbers of how many attended, but it's about the skills that they're building, then we can kind of open it up and look differently at how we're engaging teens. So again, these are just screenshots of how we're getting feedback from the customers, from the teens, from adults. You know, how are you engaging with us? Fill out this survey. Here's questions, like the middle slide says, please take a few minutes and fill out this brief survey. You know, were you aware? Like, yes, no, strong, you know, strongly disagree, just neither, agree. We can get their feedback, you know, and of course, improve or change for next time. The far right, we actually partner with the Public Library Association and have specific questions that we ask. We don't do it for every program. We do it once a quarter, and probably our more, you know, highly attended programs. So I wouldn't recommend, you don't have to do this for every program. That's a lot of work. I would also encourage you to visit this website from the Young Adult Library Services Association. And it gives examples of what engagement is. And again, this goes way beyond the numbers. You know, we're not just looking at 10 teens attended. Are teens able to display self-confidence after your program? That is a measurement of engagement. You know, are they able to think flexibly? Are they able to demonstrate technology? You know, sometimes giving them opportunities within the program to show their peers what they learned within, you know, maybe a 30-second presentation, like then you're touching on that presentation skill. So I find this a really useful handout to look at what engagement can mean. And then of course I talk about, you know, what we can do again with the data. We can market the events. So a lot of the videos I had in this presentation, again, I would encourage you to go back and look at. They're using quotes and videos from teens like in the program, so as a way to market a future program. So it's like you're never without your camera, you're never without, you know, trying to get this information from teens. So I think thinking about that when you're doing your program can be really powerful. That visual imagery, you're telling a story, you know, you're not just sending in a report, which we all probably have to do to some degree, right? and maybe we're writing something on paper, we're saying what the teens did, but these images can be so much more powerful to administration in our community of what our program did. Again, this is another video I think we'll pass over, but we're a partnership with the Black Girls Film Camp. They are creating films, and I call it a large scale program because we have a lot of partners. You can see on the flyer, you know, all the different logos of who the partners are. But basically, it's a film camp for Black teens, and they are going to use the library to premiere their films. So we're really excited about that. On the website are examples of films. So this was one that I wanted to show, but again, we ran out of time. But I wanted to include some prompts. You know, how do we go about doing a large scale program? Maybe film isn't something that your community wants or needs. That's fine. You know, observe, find out what do they need. And then you're defining your purpose. So this was a grant-driven program that, of course, you know, to get the grant, they had to define what is the whole point of the program. What resources do you have and what do you need? You know, do you need the money, the funding to go towards staffing? Do you need it to go towards supplies? And then, of course, you don't have to do this by yourself, hopefully, you know, hopefully you can collaborate with others. I know I'm going through this very quickly, but it is a process. You know, creating an outline sometimes and starting with an end goal is where to start, and then doing it smaller scale first, testing it out, you know, bringing up your own self-confidence that you can do this program. And then, of course, once you know, are ready to hit the ground, then, of course, you want to market it more widely. And I don't think we have time to go through all these programs, but again, these are just some more media literacy related programs that we've done. If we do have any time in the Q&A to talk more at length with it about, you know, anything in particular you see, I'm more than happy to. And then I think we touched on some of these outcomes. So getting the teen response, you know, after the program, like, can you record them? Can you record them in video or in text? Is there a product that you can have at the end of the program that you can show, you know, to a wider audience? Relevant to teen needs, you know, what are teen needs? I'd encourage you to visit the Search Institute, where they talk about what assets can we build with teens. And then, of course, you know, we're working with the youth and figuring out what they are interested in. So, of course, outcomes can look like numbers. They can look like survey results. You know, I showed you a quick slide on what some survey questions can be. And then how we're responding to the data. So, of course, you know, if someone says, hey, here's a 2050 strategy, you know, I want you to follow, then we can say, this is how we did it. You know, these are the programs that we had, and we believe that this, you know, helps our community in the ways that we were asked to. And of course, we probably all have that monthly report that we have to turn in. And if we, you know, can add some more quotes, pictures, data to it, then maybe someone will hear like what we're trying to do and what we've accomplished in a different way. And, you know, we can always present that. Again, going back to the importance of relationship building with teens, I hope maybe I've, you know, maybe I'm turning wheels in your head to think of what's one thing that you can do today, what's one thing you can do with the rest of your week to start building relationship with a teen in a way that you haven't before. We'll skip the poll for now because I think we're running into time. I've got some resources at the end. Of course, this is recorded, so you can please, you know, refer to this at the end or at the recording. And thank you. And there's my contact information. Of course, I would love to hear from anyone if you have questions. And I think I'll pause there.
Келли ханым, рахмет. Сіздің
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. The topic of today's webinar was related to teens, teenagers. As for questions, let's see if there are any questions.
Существуют ли у вас проекты, которые направлены на взаимоотношения подростков с родителями?
The question is, do you have projects that focus on relationships of teens with their parents?
Good question. Yeah. So do I have projects that focus on relationship with teens and their parents? I would say that we've done intergenerational programs. So, and I'm trying to think related to media literacy. A fun thing that comes to mind is we've done, so we have the digital media studio. You all saw the slide of the Batman, the Joker, and the blue flooring. You know, we have a blue screen in there. So we've offered to take like family pictures, because oftentimes the people that we get, we kind of work in a high poverty area and they can't afford taking photos of the family. So we've offered that as something that the library can do for them. I would say, and a lot of people do take advantage of that. So again, that's something fun that they can do. We do a lot of, I would say, tutoring as well. So whether it's teens doing tutoring, you know, with younger kids, and adults working with teens. So, you know, we do that kind of intergenerational programming as well. We have done some safety programming with parents and teens. So safety around like internet use and social media use, and just kind of doing that as more of a casual, open, you know, forum conversation to find out, you know, what issues are there at home, you know, and how can we navigate those together. So those are a few examples I can think of, you know, that we've done and that other libraries I'm familiar with have done as well. I hope that helps.
Рахмет, Келли. Мына жерде сұрап жатыр, сіз ұсынған соңғы ресурстарға
The
арналған...
question is, the resources that you have given in the last slide, are they free or paid? If you agree, we can send this presentation to all the participants. Is that okay if we send this presentation so that they would have all the links and...
Я тогда перешлю презентацию, которую сделала Келли, и вы можете оттуда получить ссылки и уже посмотреть, конечно, пользуясь переводчиками Google, Яндекс, или если у вас есть английский, вы сами можете в оригинале посмотреть.
So yes, it'll be easier for the participants to look through the slides to get the links. Thank you.
Yes.
The next question is from Aynur. What was your question? Are you ready? I think Aynur wants to ask her question. Aynur and Alina want to ask their question.
Ну, пока Айнур или Алина. Кто готов? Алина? Ну, по-моему, они не смогли. Периодически связь прерывается.
The internet is not very good. That's why I think they didn't join. One more question. Thank you very much for your presentation. And this was a very interesting experience. And it seems that you reached a good understanding with teenagers in order to create interesting programs together. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas and resources. It was interesting. They've written in the chat. And the question is the following. School libraries are focused on the educational process. Teachers and parents of school children are also interested in their children being more involved into their studies. Tell us about your experience in engaging teachers and parents to work with the library. Teachers of which subjects are most willing to cooperate with the library, especially in the field of media literacy education?
Mhm. Yeah, great question. Yeah, so working with teachers in the library and you know what teachers are most interested in working with us is what I got from the question. So yeah, great question. I think I go back to the example of like the online youth exhibit. You know, where over 100 years of the schooling system was looked at. I feel like we work a lot with history teachers, so I think that tie-in of having that historical data that we as public library have, that we've made those connections with school libraries. So, you know, whether it's photos, maps, other databases that they might not have, you know, that we have different from the school. We've been able to make connections with that. Sometimes the school media specialist, I think just because of how busy they are, isn't always, you know, the primary connection that we have with schools. So I would say probably history teachers, English teachers, we have a lot of success with. As far as media literacy, I think sometimes we have technology here that perhaps the school doesn't. So, you know, if they are looking at making films, if they are looking at creating music, again, the English teacher seems most open to using different media like that. And sometimes it's a matter of just having a, you know, open house at the beginning of the school year to let teachers know what we have, because you don't know what you don't know. You know, you don't always know what questions to ask, but if you see, oh, this is what the library can do, this is what we offer, then you might start creating those connections that just weren't there before because we didn't know what questions to ask each other. So I'd encourage you, you know, to think outside the box. And maybe you're seeing in the school, oh, hey, that science teacher is doing some really cool things. I see some ways that we could connect and reaching out in that way. So, yeah.
Рахмет, Келли ханым. Мына жерде бізде
Thank you very much.
сұранып отыр. Алина Шымкент.
Alina from Shymkent wants to ask a question. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Я жақсы естіліп тұр, Алина, айта беріңіз.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Сәлеметсіздер ме, Келли ханым?
Good evening, Kelly.
Kelly, thank you for good presentation and for good resource. Келесі енді мен қазақ тіліне өтейін.
I would like to speak in Kazakh. Good evening. My name is Alina. I am from Shymkent, from the Universal Library named after Pushkin. And I'm also the coordinator of the American Corner. I would like to tell about several events. I have worked with the teenagers. The first one was the American Drama Theater, a drama festival, and there were over 300 school students participated in this, and they have shown it through the puppet shows, and they've also recited the verses and sung songs and so on and so forth. And we have had a support from the local entrepreneurs, and they have helped us to use the theater space as well. 3. And the next project is the project related to the 30th anniversary of cooperation between Kazakhstan and the United States. Over 200 young people participated in that, and they have shown through their products the cooperation between the US and Kazakhstan, and also the local people, and also the representatives of the US consulate participated in that. And also we organized traditional competitions on spelling in English. And for the first time, the Embassy of the US has helped organize these. Then we started to organize this competition in our cities. Then we started to organize this competition in regional schools and district libraries. And then the 3 school students who got to the final, they take part in the final part of the competition in our library. The events in our library are related to the promotion of the books, reading, and so on and so forth. And also we work in close collaboration with the other libraries, and we also organize trainings for teachers, school students, and also different presentations and games. Of course, there are lots of interesting events we organize, and I would like to say that that we can organize, and we've organized the events with the American corners in our region and with the other schools. Thank you very much.
That's amazing. Yes, thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much that you shared your experience. Kelly you have told about your experience of working with the American corners, yeah? And you shared your own experience and your own methods of work. Maybe Kelly would tell her own opinion about the experience she has heard about.
Sorry, I'm not quite sure I understand my own experience with.
Осы айтылған жәнегі Алинаның айтқан тәжірибесіне бір
your opinion of the experience which was voiced by Alina's experience. What do you think about this, about the events she has organized?
Got it. Thank you. Oh my gosh, amazing. Like 200, 300 people, like, yeah, that's huge. And the training that you're able to provide, I mean, that sounds so wonderful. And how you were talking about how it's related to, you know, what they're reading, and absolutely, I mean, that's just spot on. And then bringing it to different cities, like that's huge. It reminded me too, I forgot, it's not a spelling competition, but we've done, it's called like Battle of the Books. And so all the kids, you know, from all over read the same book, and then they're asked like trivia questions based on the book. So it's a competition in that way. So that's definitely something that we've partnered with the schools. You reminded me of that. And yeah, and it's grown, you know, and like you said, we provide training as well. But it really gets the kids involved, the parents involved, the teachers involved. So yeah, any kind of competition usually is a great way to get all involved. So very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing.
Рахмет, Келли ханым.
Thank you very much, Kelly. These games and these competitions can be related to one book or to one author, and I think we can use the same method in different ways. And Kelly has told about this in her presentation, so we have to relate it to the interests of the teens. Thank you very much, Alina. Thank you very much. Ainura from Oral also wants to ask a question, I think. The floor is yours. Good evening, distinguished colleagues. We are very happy to see you, Kelly.
Good evening, Kelly. I really like your presentation, and especially the painting desk with the graffiti artist and with the backup story. I really like. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Мына жерде кітапханашылар отыр екен. Мысалы, әрбір
Here we
кітапханада
have librarians. In each library, there is a makerspace corner, and in 10 cities, we have American corners. In 5 cities of Kazakhstan, we have makerspaces, and there are some libraries which do not have such spaces, but I think they're planning, and they can plan to introduce this into their own program. Media literacy is very important. As Alina, I also can share my own experience, and I hope that it can inspire you to organize such kind of events. Last year, our organization has organized various events, and over 200 high school students participated in the event, and it was related to the Day of Science, and we had an online event, and it involved the girls in science, and they have shared their own experience, and they motivated the other girls to do the research and to be involved into the science. And there were 4 summer camps related to that, and we also had different topics for camps for high school students, and we try to teach them various skills and also help them to find new friends and be open and free in various environments. And also the goal of that event was to develop leadership skills of the students, and we wanted to make a friendly space for them. And also career counseling and finding your way is very important for the teens. And last year we had the webinar on choosing your career for the high school students. And the webinar was about how to choose your career, how to choose your job. And the speaker has answered their question. And last year, the library organized a course on robotics for teachers. And the teachers themselves are taught how to teach robotics. And then in their schools, they organize a team in their school. And in a month, they come back and compete with the other teams, with the teams from the other schools. So it was about the robotics, how to teach it. And we also developed decision-making skills. Several teams exchanged their experience and also developed their designing skills. And I would like to share one success story. Last year, during the robotics competition, there was Adina, one participant, Adina. She was 11 years old. When we say robotics, we usually think about boys. But this girl has written to us that, to tell the truth, what was more important for me, not just taking part in that competition, but the grades were more important. I thought that the boys would be better anyway, but she was inspired by our course and she learned how to work with the maps, with the cards, and she has shown her better skills. Her skills have improved, and she has become more confident. And such kind of success stories are very important for us. And I think they can help us to do our projects in future. We have lots of success stories like that, but we do not have enough time to show all of them. But you can see some slides here. Could you please go to the first slide? Timur, the first slide, please. He's trying to go to the first slide. You can continue. There was a question, how to involve families in the library school. Now, last year we had the family day in our library, and on that day, the families came with their teens and they spent some time there, and they had to work with some cases, or they had to do some tasks. Their dads and moms spend 2-3 hours with their children. When we are speaking of Kazakh families, usually we think we think of the boys going to judo or doing some sports, but there was a STEM day for families, and there were events, activities related to STEM. I would like to thank the organizers to give the floor to us, to me and Alina, to share our experience of the work with the American Corner and our work of our library. I think if you allow, we can send your presentation as well to all the participants. And I would like to tell Kelly that Makerspace is working only in 5 libraries in Kazakhstan. In rural libraries, usually they do not have enough equipment. Their internet connection is very low usually, and you can see some people here cannot hear us, or they have problems with internet. And I hope that they will listen to the recording later. That is why we record this. So the context is different everywhere. And Kelly has shared her experience. She said that we can relate and we can connect books and internet and media literacy. So how can we inspire children read books? How we can help them choose their career and so on and so forth. And what can be interesting for our teens. Kelly has made a research on that and the report on that, and she has shown it in her presentation. And she has also shown how we can teach media literacy to the teens through various methods.
Thank you so much. I have hope for the teens, right? It's yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I think we all face similar challenges, similar struggles, and similar successes. And I feel a sense of hope for our teens and ourselves. So thank you.
Тағы бір сұрақ жазып жіберіпті. Спасибо за ваш рассказ. Вы накопили успешный опыт и достигли хорошего взаимопонимания с подростками.
So yes, thank you for sharing your experience. You have had a lot of successful experience and good understanding working with teenagers. But I imagine that probably in the beginning of this path, there were certain difficulties. Can you share some of the problems that you faced in the beginning, and how did you address those problems to get where you are now?
Sure. So I didn't catch the first part. So struggles at the beginning of I'm not
When
sure.
you just started developing
Okay.
programs for teenagers.
Okay,
If you
sure.
had any difficulties, yeah.
Yeah, and we still do. I mean, you know, you can see the pictures of, oh, this place looks huge and amazing and great, but we still struggle to get teens to all our programs. All our programs don't have, you know, 50, 200 teens. So every day we're working at it. And I think one of the things too, I'm in a position, like I said, I'm a manager, so I'm able to hire folks that I know can can work with the teens. So if you're in that position, or you know, you can influence those that are, I highly recommend. You know what? Who are your teens going to respond to best? I think that's really key is the staff, and I think, you know, speaking out, if you see something that could be changed, or you have an idea of innovation, then sharing that and not being afraid to say, hey, I think, you know, can we try this? Or, hey, I had a teen that really wants to do this, you know, can we try it? And not being afraid. And I think that's kind of been my whole way of operating here, that I've been able to. And you know, reframing what is failure. Is it really failure if only one teen shows up? No, if you learn something from it and you know, don't take it personal and then do something different next time, then that's not failure. You know, maybe you have two teens, maybe the weather was bad, you know, maybe the internet connection didn't work. Like, it's okay, you know, then we just have to change and modify and you know, do something different. But if we keep doing the same thing and we don't say anything about it, then we might have to ask ourselves, you know, what are we trying to do here? So those are the few pieces of advice I would give. And it sounds like I said, you all are doing fantastic things, which I knew you were coming into this presentation. So if you do have opportunities to share with each other, I hope that you do. I always get inspiration from my own colleagues. So across the country, across the state, you know, just sharing what we're doing and keeping those communication lines open, I think helps as well.
Рахмет, әбден келісеміз, өте дұрыс.
Thank you very much. You're right. We have to continue to develop our relationship and share our experience. If we have any idea, we try to implement it without being scared. And we have to try to involve the teens themselves into creating something, into organizing something. And I think we can get some success.
Интересная тема деп түрлі жақсы Алина мен Айнұрға да рахметін айтып жатыр.
Everybody is thanking Kelly and Alina. And the last question, what are the 5 main principles the librarian must keep to establish good relationship with the teens?
That's
and
a great
5
question.
rules.
5 principles, 5 rules to stick to in building that relationship with the teens. I would say number 1, that they are people first. You know, they are not just problems, they are not just challenges, they are people first. They are not just younger adults, you know, they are teens in their own right. They are who they are in this moment, and we care about them for all that they're going through, and it's, you know, where they're at. Just I would say also, third, meeting them where they're at. You know, we're all going to have different challenges, different skill sets, and we just have to figure out what makes the most sense and how can we grow that for them. 2 more things. Let's see. being open that they can teach us something. You know, we as adults, I think, like to think we know everything, but we don't. As humbling as it can feel and might be, we definitely don't know everything, and teens can lead the way if we give them the opportunity to do so. And I would say lastly that teens are amazing people. They are our future, and we owe it to ourselves and to them to invest in them with our time and our own skill set and our own resources.
Рахмет, Келли.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you.
You're very positive, and thank you very much for your presentation. Somebody has written in the chat, and I would like to thank you on behalf of our colleagues, and I would like to thank the translators, and I would like to express my gratitude to the interpreters for the good translation. The translation is very important in understanding such an important topic. There are no questions left, I think. The next webinar will be on the 18th of May at 7 p.m. Astana time. The link will be the same on the 18th of March. You need to join our next webinar. As for the presentation, Kelly's and Ainur's presentation will be sent to you, to your emails. I will send these presentations to your emails, and you can see all the links there tomorrow. Probably I'll send it. If you want to know any news about the project, you need to follow our account, mediagram.kz. All the news will be published there. Distinguished colleagues, I would like to thank everybody for participating. Kelly, I would like to thank you for finding time and telling us about your own experience. I would like to thank Michael as well. And he's with us since December last year, and he has selected the best speakers for us. Thank you very much, Michael. And me and my colleagues are very happy to have such partners. And I would like to thank our participants again. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Kelly, Michael, good luck. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye. Sağ olun, zarar